Audrey Epstein. I'm a founding partner of the Trispective Group, and I am joined today by Linda Adams and Rebecca Teasdale, my partners who have been with me in this organization for 12 years, and we've worked together much longer than that. We are so pleased to have y'all here, and we're going to let you introduce yourselves in just a moment. But I just wanted to kick off by saying, I'm sure you've all heard the phrase, necessity is the mother of invention, and that is very true for us right now. We've wanted to do this session virtually for quite some time, but like all of you, we have been busy doing sessions for our clients and traveling across the world and focused on other events, and now we are so happy to be doing this today. In fact, we were joking that there's so much snow in Colorado, if you had all flown in here, we would have probably had to cancel. So this is quite, this is quite fortuitous for us. Let's see, our journey with this really started a long time ago. We have been focused on the effectiveness and building teams for most of our careers, but really started in earnest 12 years ago when we started our business. And since that time, we wrote our book, which I know you've all had a chance to look at, and then also have been working for quite some time on building our tool. And we feel like there has never been a more important time to actually be focused on team development. All of the teams that we're working with, and I'm sure you're finding it the same, are under incredible pressure right now to figure out how to work virtually without ever getting to meet face-to-face right now, and to learn how to be productive and connected together in a whole different way. So one disclaimer I will state is that this is our first time doing the certification via Zoom, and so if we have any glitches along the way, we ask for your patience and graciousness, but we think it should work out well. The way that our agenda works for today is that we're in our opening and welcome. As I said before, we'll let you introduce yourselves in just a moment. And then we're gonna go through the 4 team zones model. We'll do it in an overview or a summary way, but give you a chance to participate in that presentation and also just to hear how we talk about our model. We'll move on to look at the tool and take you through the case study that we sent out to you prior, let you see how we diagnose teams. And then finally, we'll do a quick wrap up. We're scheduled for 2 hours, so we hope you're coffeeed up. We're so glad to have all of you from across the world, across the globe right now. I think we have several countries and many regions within the United States represented. So welcome. What we're going to do next is just some introductions. So if you can just state your name and your role. We have people here who are external consultants representing their own companies and internal HR folks who are going to bring this tool within their company. So we'd love to hear your name and role, your organization. Briefly, if you've had any experience with the 4 team zones assessment, we'd love to hear about that. And then finally, Linda sent you pre-work questions. Again, this is where you're lucky. Typically when we're in a room together, we just give you one and make you answer that question, but we're giving you a little bit more flexibility today, and you can answer one question from the list. So Linda, I will ask you to call on people so that we're not all trying to talk at once.
Okay, sounds good. So good morning. Let's start with Hortensia.
Good morning, everyone. Um,
Morning.
so my name is Hortensia Bustillos. I work for GCC. Actually, there's a couple of us from GCC. I'm in the HR role, been with the company for several years now. I'm based in El Paso, Texas. I am a little familiar with the 14 zones assessment. We've 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 done a little bit of that in the past, and I think the other thing to mention was to pick one of the questions, right, that you sent in the document.
Correct.
So I probably would say that one of the things that I disagree with my parents when growing up was that even though that it was the weekends, we have to be up very early in the morning. Doesn't matter if it was vacation, Saturday, Sunday, we have to be up by early morning, make sure everything was done, cleaned. Our mom was, she's always been pretty strict, making sure our house was clean and everything was done early, because she said you never know what could happen during the day, so you want to make sure you get that out of the way. And guess what? I grew up and I do exactly the same thing.
All right. Thank you, Hortensia. Next up, Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. Let me unmute you so you don't have to faff with that.
Oh, there we are. Okay. So yeah, my name is Jennifer Cronenberg, and I am near Boulder, Colorado here. I have a coaching and consulting business, which I started about a dozen years ago. My husband and I are serial entrepreneurs, so realized the parts that I loved best about our businesses was growing the companies and growing the people. So my company is JMK Coaching and Consulting. I don't have any experience with the 14 zones yet, except for like this week doing our prep work. So I'm really excited to look at this tool because it's just recent, like in the past year that I've started working with teams. And I'm very excited to understand better how to have a tool that is really tangible. And so far, I'm really loving what I'm seeing. And then the one question from oh my God, they were all great questions, but one that kind of resonated with me was, you know, what's one thing that you've been saying for years that you would like to do and that you just haven't done? And I gotta say, for like 30 plus years, I've been saying that I want to go heli-skiing with my husband, and I'm not getting any younger, so I think I need to like jump on that one. And I'm going to be accountable with all of you and say, I want to jump on that within a year before my 60th birthday. There, I said it.
Woo!
It sounds more like jumping off than jumping on. Yeah, we'll talk about that later, Jennifer. We'll have a family conference on that one.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Next up, we have Vanessa from PetSmart.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Vanessa Ethier. I am the Leadership Development Program Manager for PetSmart. I've been with them for about 9 months now. Experience with the 14 zones assessment. So our organization uses the assessment quite frequently, particularly in our IT organization. Our CIO has a history with Trispective Group and the assessments, so very big there, and we're actually looking to expand it into some of our other organizations and departments. As far as the question, I was torn. They're all really good, but I was torn between two. So I'll go with the biggest risk that I've taken in life. It kind of ties to another one that I was passionate about as well. About 3 years ago, I moved to London and I completely did a career switch. So I'm actually technically still a CPA. I have an active license. Accounting finance was my whole background and career. Did public accounting, corporate controller, CFO roles. And then I just decided I loved leadership, you know, development and the passion for people. So went to London, did a master's in leadership, innovation, and creativity at Cass Business School at City University of London. So that was definitely the biggest risk. You know, I was there for a year, and then I came back to the States and landed with PetSmart. So.
That's great. All right, thank you for sharing that with us. Next up, we have Melissa, also from GCC.
So hi everyone, as Hortensia said, we're with GCC and I sit in Montana at the Trident plant. I've been with GCC for almost 2 years now. We were acquired in June 2018, so it's been a fun ride so far. I have a one-day training with Audrey, and that's about, other than this prep week, is the extent of what I know about Loyalist training in the team zones. And I picked a conservative question from the list. One of the things that I'm most creative with, I tend to like to scrapbook in my spare time when I have spare time. And that kind of developed into creating a calendar for my mom and my mother-in-law when the kids were little. And over the course of the last 22 years, it's expanded from, you know, doing it on paper copy and printing them out and binding them myself to doing them digitally. And now every Christmas I have to do 15 calendars for different family members. So it's been a lot of fun, but a lot of challenging work at the end, trying to get enough pictures to fill up a calendar for people. So.
Well, hopefully this at-home time gives you at least a few more minutes. Maybe you can get a jump start on 2021.
Perfect.
That would be a good way to think about it. Thank you, Melissa. Next, we have Lisa from Colorado Northwestern Community College.
Hi, yes, my name is Lisa. I'm an executive assistant with Colorado Northwestern Community College. We do have a little bit of experience with the 14 zone assessment. Just Linda came and spoke to our college maybe 2 years ago. And so, but since then we we're really excited to start this process again. My question, I was actually thinking of the same one as Melissa. So my most creative outlet is drawing. However, I do love scrapbooking, so maybe Melissa and I can visit on that later.
All right, thank you, Lisa. And next we have George. Rebecca's already mentioned he's from Romania, but what else can you share with us, George?
Thank you. So I'm a freelancer coach and trainer, mainly in leadership development and team development. The last time I have worked for a company, it was Ernst & Young in Romania, and that happened 14 years ago. And unfortunately, I do not have experience with team zones. That's why I'm here. But of course, I have tried to use or to develop myself certain tools. After I have acquired the book, looking at the tool, that's why I'm here. It's the main purpose for me to understand and to use it. The question from the list, it was about the superhero, because what I feel these days is that I need either to increase my multitasking skills or to expand the time. And what is happening is that I have a lot of ideas, and but I don't have time to implement and also to do the business as usual. Mm-hmm. So I need to stop somewhere and to redefine myself. And again, this might be a good opportunity being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George, and I appreciate your effort to track us down and get involved with this. So that's excited to have you here today. Next, we have another unusual participant from at least from a Trispective point of view. We have Lauren, who is calling in from Namibia.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm so chuffed to be part of this. The timing has actually been so perfect. So really happy to be here and looking forward to speaking to everybody. Yeah, my organization, I'm also a freelance or an independent consultant. I have a background in coaching and facilitating and more I'm coming into contact with teams who are struggling or needing input on how to be even better. I've also found that corporates in particular like to have a bit of data to refer to, and that's how I came across Trispective. I was doing a bit of research. I think you were mentioned in a quarterly article or HBR article, and so I did a bit of digging, went down the rabbit hole, and the conversations led to this. I haven't had any experience with the 4 zones, so I'm a greenie. The question that I answered, I actually, like a lot of you, I went through the whole list. It was wonderful. It was such an enlightening experience, and I've actually got, can I show you my list? Like, I've got writing all over the place. I think I answered about 3/4 of them. But like Vanessa, one of the biggest risks that I have taken is actually moving to Namibia. I'm not a Namibian by birth. I was born and raised in Johannesburg, and I moved here with my family almost 8 years ago, without a job, without really knowing, what we were going to do and where we were going to live and how it would be. Which was both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. But yeah, 8 years later, and we're still here.
Well, it's great to have you with us, Lauren, and just to acknowledge that you reached out to us probably about 6 weeks or maybe even more ago and said, hey, can we do this virtually? And we were like, sure, yeah. little knowing that it wouldn't just be you and us, but you as part of a class. So thank you for being a pioneer for us in this space. I appreciate that. Next up, I'm going to ask Diana Lopez to introduce herself. Diana is an observer of the session today, but she has a much bigger role with GCC than just being an observer to this session. So Diana, can you go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself and why you're here?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm Diana. I'm part of HR in Mexico, a part of GCC company. So you have seen many of us also here in the session. My experience with the 14 zone is, well, it's quite good. I think I've been part of a few sessions. We're trying to implement this in GCC. So we are trying to live actually the culture because it's something that we really believe in. I don't know, what else can I say to you? I have taken this training before, and this time I'm just participating as an observer. So you might not see me participating many as you might, but I'll be here. And of course, this is for me a good opportunity to refresh all the learned things or having already a different point of view. And talking about the question, I thought of what is a risk you have taken in your life? When I started my professional life, I have a different background, of course, and I have everything planned in my head on the next steps to follow. Suddenly, an HR opportunity came to me, and I decided to go for it because it was a temporary project. And well, almost, I don't even know how many years before, but yeah, 10 years before I'm here being part of HR, I fell in love with HR, so I continue working with people. And my first career was education. So this is how I associate both careers. So here I am, and this is part of developing, of course. This is part of getting trained, and this is part of also sharing this with some other people.
So thank you for that, Diana. And again, we'd just like to have a call out to say that without your partnership and the support of GCC, we wouldn't have this tool in Spanish. We're just so excited to be able to launch the 4 Team Zone assessment in Spanish, probably been about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago now. So very excited to see that moving forward, and just wanted to acknowledge and thank you for your role in helping us make that happen. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
So another GCC, Mr. Mark, are you there?
Good morning. I'm Mark Castillo, and yes, I am with GCC as well. I'm in the southern part of Colorado, so I don't see much snow, and it's dry right now. So I'm kind of okay with that, I think. But we do need the moisture. I'm an HR leader there, and I don't know if anybody's wondering what GCC does, but we make cement, and we also have a ready mix division. So just so you guys know, we make cement and we sell cement, and then we do the concrete on the other side. So if anybody was wondering, yes, I do have experience with the 14 zones. I started my training about 2 months ago. Linda and my team in Pueblo, we went through the 14 and went through the assessment. And then the one question that I answered was one quality that I wish I would have. And I don't know if it's really quality, but I wish I was a risk taker or more of a risk taker because I think sometimes I'm too, I want too much security in my life. So, I want to make sure the bills are paid. I want to make sure I have a house. I want to make sure I have a car. And I wish sometimes I would not be so focused on maybe that. So maybe I would have make different steps, or maybe a different, be an entrepreneur or something like that. To me, that's awesome that people are able to do that, because I don't have it. So that's me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Joe, would you care to share a little bit about you with us?
Yeah, sure. My name's Joe Esparza. I'm one of the owners of Leadership Outfitters. My wife and I started the company about 26 years ago. We are self-employed employed leadership coaches, so we work with leaders and their teams. I'm a Marshall Goldsmith Master Certified Coach for executive coaching and for team coaching. And when I was working with GCC at Melissa's plant and here in Montana, and they were talking about this tool when I was doing some work with them, and I wanted to know more about it. And then during a team session, I could actually see them use the framework. I could see them use the language. And I thought, I need to know more about this. And so that's when I reached out. Because anytime I see a team without assistance actually using something and not having somebody else from the outside drive it, that gets my attention, because after 27 years, you start to notice when things stick and when they make a difference, and this looked like it was. And so I wanted to explore more about it, and that's kind of why I'm here. So one question about myself that I'll answer, it's the risk question too. So like Vanessa and Lauren, my wife and I were both working at corporate jobs. I was actually in training and development for Miller Brewing Company in Milwaukee, and she was there in organizational development. We both left those jobs and moved here to Montana 27 years ago, and there was nothing here. I mean, it was a small little town, and our town is now like the fastest growing micropolitan small town in the United States. And so it's just kind of amazing how that happened. And, Mark, you talk about taking risks. Yeah, sometimes you take them and you go, oh my gosh, what have I done? But that was one that we took, and it's paid off. And we've been very blessed to have the clients that we have over the years. So we're very, very fortunate. So thank you for putting this virtually. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to see you, Joe, and I appreciate your curiosity in finding out more about us. So thanks for being here. Mm-hmm. Next, we have Anthony. If you would care to share your story. Anthony looks like he's just dropped. Oh no, he hasn't. Hang on a minute.
It's
Anthony, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Although for me, good evening. It's I'm here in Perth, in Western Australia, the edge of civilization. It's nearing midnight here. So yeah, very pleased to meet everyone. My background is in organisational development over the last several decades, having worked in large multinationals, so companies such as Merck and Kimberly-Clark. in both Australia and the Asia Pacific region. Have tried my hand in recent years at independent consulting, but am currently working with an organisation called Serco here in Perth at a hospital, providing some organisational development and leadership development services to them. No direct experience of using Trispective assessments, however, have used particularly Audrey's article, which was in HBR a few years ago, as a reading for team development work I've done with the executive team for Serco at Fiona Stanley Hospital. As soon as I saw that article, I thought, oh my God, who are these people? They get it, and I want to know more about them. So I'm, you know, it's probably a perverse thing to say, but thank God for coronavirus. It has meant that there's a virtual certification, which is happening now, because I didn't know whether I'd ever be able to make it to the US for the face-to-face certification. I have quite a lot of experience in team development as part of my overall organisational development work, and hence in seeing the sort of approach that Trispective took. It really resonated with all my experience about what works with teams and what are the key sort of facets that contribute to team effectiveness. So I'm really keen to learn more around the assessments, and I really like the sorts of attributes that they measure. In terms of a question, I guess a little bit different maybe to some others, but the question that really resonated with me was number 5, which is one of the best gifts you've ever received. And I guess the immediate thing which came to me around that was not so much a gift, but the card that accompanied the gift from my sister, who has lived in the UK for the last 30 years or so. And I think it was a card that had featured a cartoon from the New Yorker, so one of those sort of 2-panel cartoons. The first panel showed a man drowning in a lake, flailing around, waving his arms, and the dog standing at the side of the lake, and the man saying, "Lassie, get help." And that's the first panel. And then the second panel shows Lassie on a psychiatrist's couch getting help. So just I can't explain why that appealed to me so much, but I know I laughed out loud when I received it. So I don't know what that says, but that's what resonated with me on the list. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you sharing, Anthony, and particularly grateful that you were willing to go with this 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. time slot to participate in the program. It says a lot about your commitment. I hope you've had a nap this afternoon, so we'll see how the rest of the day goes for you.
Yeah,
thank you for that.
Thanks, Linda.
And last but no means least, we have Marcy, also from GCC. You there, Marcy?
I'm here. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, can hear you now. Yep.
Okay. I'm with GCC, and my name is Marcy Porter. I'm the HR leader for the Tijeras, New Mexico and Odessa, Texas plants. I am familiar with the 4 team zones. It's good to have a refresher. It's been a little while. My question off the list is about what risk I had taken, and that was the one I picked. Many years ago, I was in a situation in California. I had a job. I just was miserable. So I decided to reach out to a friend in New Mexico. I quit my job. I packed up all my stuff and moved here without knowing that I would have a job or not. So I just took a chance and had faith that it would work out, and it did.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you, Marcy, and thank you all of you for sharing. Audrey, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Please feel free to use that list with any team sessions that you do in the future. We have found it to be a fun and engaging way to start off team sessions. We will be providing you with lots of tools through this process, and following this process, we've certified about 50 folks prior to this session, and we have set up a shared files where we really try to share best practices and provide tools that you can use. So thanks for sharing. Whoops, having trouble progressing. There we go. So in terms of Zoom ground rules, if you have a question at any point in time, know that you will be on mute just to make sure we don't have too much background noise. But if you go to the bottom of your screen and you see the participant panel, if you click on that, you can see at the bottom of that panel, there's a raise your hand function. So please raise your hand at any point in time. One of us will absolutely notice that, and we'll let you ask your question. You can also use the chat function if you have to want to ask us something specific or share something with the whole group. Just like we did prior, we'll call you by name when we do a roundtable so we don't all speak at once. Please also let us know if you can't hear or see something. Again, using that virtual raise your hand function is probably the best way. And if you can, no multitasking. We only have a couple of hours this week. We're trying to cram in a lot. In terms of our objectives for this whole process, we're hoping that we can build your confidence in using this tool to facilitate team sessions. And also, just like us, we are sure you really enjoy expanding your personal toolkit. And what we have found in using this tool is that and somebody said this, it really helps to have data. I think for a lot of teams, what we found prior to having this tool is that we would do our individual interviews with folks before having a team session, and they would be pretty candid with us and talk about issues of maybe there was distrust or broken trust, the unwillingness to hold each other accountable, some tough stuff. And then we'd get into the session, and when people were face to face and looking at each other, they'd be like, oh no, it's pretty good, everything's fine. And so having a tool that actually pinpoints how people rated the team, and you can see it in graphs in that black and white, it made a huge difference in having candid conversations that were incredibly necessary in moving the team forward. Additionally, we found that having a tool really helps to know where to start the work. We've seen a lot of teams who think the way to fix team challenges is to do an offsite. And that might be, we're gonna go do a ropes course, or we might play paintball or something, and somehow miraculously our challenges will be solved. And what we found is, making the team face, like, here's our starting point, and these are the areas we should first focus on, gave this a credibility and also just more accuracy in how to move forward. So in this certification process, there is pre-work and prep that you'll have before each of our workshop sessions. And we'll do our sessions just like this one in the coming weeks. And then we're going to take you through a portal setup. There's a sort of self-service video, and we will help you through it in terms of how do you technically use the tool. We don't want to spend time in the session to go through the technical nature of it. We really want to drive understanding and comfort with the content, but you will get that. And then there's a do-it-yourself segment where we will help you through using the tool with a real team. And the way that we'll do that is we'll make sure you understand technically how to launch it and run it. And then we will go through the results with you to make sure that you feel comfortable, that you understand what it's saying, and help you prepare your agenda. We'll let you go off and do that session, and then we will debrief it with you and talk through what worked, what was challenging, what you might want to do differently. And that's how we're going to do certification. In terms of our partnership vision, we believe everyone deserves a great team. We say that with all sincerity. Work happens in organizations on teams. And for the most part, teamwork isn't great. There are challenges. Just because you have smart people doesn't mean you have a great team. And it's why we were so driven to write the book, because we recognized that our reach was only the clients that we could touch personally. And we felt like teamwork is universal, and we wanted to be able to reach more people. We also have as one of our long-standing goals that we believe in self-sufficiency. So whether we're coaching or doing teamwork, our goal is not to be a consultant to that organization long-term. Our goal is to get a team self-sufficient, and also to ensure that we're working with like-minded practitioners, whether it's inside a company or organization, or those who come in and share and help them to be effective as well. We have an abundance model, meaning we believe in sharing and not in scarcity, and we love sharing tools with others. Last piece in this introduction, I want to just introduce one construct that we often use, and it's this idea of the file. And the file is the metaphor that we always talk about with teams, because we know that people come into sessions with preconceived notions. And the file is our way of talking about those stories that we have about how things are. And so we have files on people. We have files on departments. We say things like, oh yeah, HR people are always like this, or those finance guys are always like that. And that is our preconceived notions. And those files are useful for us because they help us prepare. They keep us safe. We get ready for something by saying, yeah, I know how it's going to be. But those files are incredibly dangerous, because one, they lead to stereotyping, and two, they keep us from being in learning mode. And three, they hold us back from seeing opportunity for something to be new or different or better. And so we always ask teams to think about, people on teams to think individually about what files they are bringing into the room that could hold them back from having a new, fresh session about what this team could be. And we often get really interesting conversations going about those files, especially when people have been through team sessions before. I just recently have this file, I will admit. So we ordered, once we knew we were going to be locked in the house, my husband said, we should order a Peloton, right? One of those bikes where you do all your exercise at home. And in my mind, I had this mental list of other home exercise equipment that he has ordered over the years that has collected dust over, like, under our bed, basically, like maybe like folded up. And he's done it every day since we've got it about 2 weeks ago. And so it was a file that he just blew away. So we asked you to do a little pre-work on your preconceived notions on teams. I always had a file on teams that if we worked with the leader of the team would be okay. That if I was a good enough coach and I really worked with the leader, that's what it took to create a great team. And we'll share some of this research with you later, but after doing 600-700 assessments, we got a lot of data collected on what makes a high-performing team. And I was shocked at the results, that it's really so much more about the relationships that are formed among team members than what any single leader can do. Recently, my file on how virtual teams work has really been shaken because, you know, I've been saying for years and years, you have to have a face-to-face kickoff and then you can go virtually. And now I'm realizing that's just not the truth. It's just a story that I had. So we'd like to hear from just a few of you so that we can move along, but I'd love to hear from a couple of folks. And if you can, maybe you can use the raise your hand function and Linda can call on you. But I'd love to hear just the answer to the first two questions. Like, what have you always believed about teams? And has anything changed in your beliefs about teams or teamwork over time? So Linda?
So I'm not seeing any hands up yet.
Oh, I see George raised his hand.
Okay, all right, George, go right ahead.
In terms of beliefs, what I strongly believe is that teams are more than the sum of their members. And a team leader needs to understand how to deal both one-to-one, but also with I've called it team dynamics. And here I've heard that it is about relationships. I think it's somewhere there. And what I found is very important is the value of respect within the team. One of the most important. It is respect for the others, respect for life in general, for world in general. But also it is a matter of giving the best of what they can. So, and I've discovered that you're talking about loyalty here from the book. And it is honoring the word. So I'm saying I'm doing something and I'm truly doing. And it is a belief I have changed in time. It is the belief that a team always needs a leader.
That's great.
And it is transformed from a hierarchical perspective to a more collaborative perspective. And one of the consequences of this belief transformation is that now on, I think there are instances where anybody from the team can take the responsibility of being the leader. And we see this as a transformation of the teams from one to many to like a circle where everybody can be partners with the others. Of course, the leader is there, but I don't think that the formal position is any more important, but the way the leader helped the others to work in collaboration.
Thank you so much. That was fabulous.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Let me just call on someone then to see.
No, Joe raised his hand.
Yeah, Linda, there are two that raised their hands.
I'm not seeing those then. So Rebecca, if you're seeing them, please go ahead and call them out. Joe?
Yeah, one of the things that I believe in a team I always thought that a lot of teams could give each other feedback. And once I got certified with the stakeholder-centered team coaching, one of the things I realized, and Audrey, I think you said this earlier, was that it's really hard for teams, or maybe it was Linda, for people to give each other feedback. You start to hold that session, and the honest dialogue about the interview, when they have the opportunity to deliver it to the team, it's softened. It's not the hard-hitting, impactful statement that they could say. And so I've really noticed that it is difficult for people to do that with teams. And in the coaching process that we use, there's a feedback and feed forward session every month that the team does with each other. And it's a great structure to hold the team accountable for saying, hey, here's the rating on your goal, your personal goal, to accomplish the team goal. And then here's the thing that I think you need to do to close the gap. And so that practice that they get with each other, knowing that, gosh, I did that and it turned out really, really well for me and for the other people. And they experience that, and then team performance goes up. And then even after you start, the coaching engagement, the team coaching engagement ends, they've created a habit that now they can repeat without you. And that's one of the things that was said earlier. If you can do that, then you've done something really, I think, significant for that team, done something that they're going to repeat without you. And so I noticed that with this team zones thing, that's what was happening in that team that I was observing with GCC. They were doing that on their own. And so that's just that, I said that earlier, it's a great thing if you can do that long after you leave. So I wanted to share that.
Thank you, Joe. And I think that what we tend to bring into teams is our experience from the past, not a set of best practices around high-performing teams, but just what we've done. And so people have different files about what it means to be a good team member. And for some of them, it might mean stay in your lane. Don't tell me when you see me doing something that you think is ineffective. That's not your job. And so unless you actually have a common language and a common set of expectations, you can't expect that people are going to dive into that risky area of giving each other feedback. They might think it's completely inappropriate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much.
I think Anthony raised his hand.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, some really interesting perspectives from others in the group. One thing which is in my mind around teams and team development is that it really is a never-ending journey, because the nature of teams is it's a collective of different people, and those people change over time. So the work I've been doing in the last, I guess, 18 months in Serco with the executive team there, seeing some great progress initiated by the person who's currently the team leader, but some sliding back now because that person is about to leave, and other changes in nature of the business as well, and changes to the composition of the team. So to me, it's really that you can never really rest on your laurels and think we're heading in the right direction and it's just that's going to be sustained. Just the nature of teams are complex on their own, and then they're nested within larger, more complex organizations, and so it really is a never-ending journey. So that's an important, I guess, part for me. And I guess the other part is around this perspective around the leader of the team. I found that I can't escape from the importance of the leader of the team, not necessarily as the most important aspect of team capability, but their ability to, because of their leadership role, to have an impact for good or ill on the development of the team can't be ignored. So and I'm so interested to see how the Trispective Teams assessment captures that piece as well.
Excellent. And you will certainly see that in terms of a whole team leader score. A couple things I'll say. One is that teams are constantly changing now. So that old model of we have plenty of time to do forming, storming, norming, performing just doesn't hold true, because the configurations of teams are changing quickly, and teams need to get up to speed and productive all the time, in whether that's in a project team or a virtual team. Teams are like starting and stopping, and people are leaving, including leaders. And these practices that teams have that are healthy and productive have to supersede any one person leaving the team, the scope expanding, the business situation changing. And so we will definitely talk about that as well. I want to go on to that last question, and we'll probably just hear from a couple of people because we're running a little behind. Do you have any like big burning questions about teams coming into this session that we should know about? And again, please raise your hand. And I see Jennifer. Whoops.
You should be on, Jennifer.
Okay, there we go. You know, I do have a question that I've been thinking about a lot, and it's more about working with teams and where is that line between coaching and consulting when you're working with teams. So maybe that's later over the course of these 3 weeks, but I would love for that to be discussed a bit.
Great. Just going to capture some of these as we go through. We can remember. I can't see who else has their hand raised.
So Lauren does. Lauren, you want to go ahead?
I have a few, so maybe I'll try and put them into one sentence, but yeah, let me see. So the first one really is how to, as you're starting to work with a team, how to help them build resilience that will help them through really tough times or big challenges or disruptions. What to do when there's nothing else you can do, is when you've tried every trick and every tool. And then something very important for me at the moment, I mean, the community here, the business community is not as far along the line as a lot of other places in terms of working online and working remotely. And so how to build openness for that, first of all, and then without having that face-to-face, or even sometimes seeing people on a screen, without having that, how do you build the rapport and the connection?
All right, and let's one last question or one last set of comments that are coming in from George.
Thank you. I had 2 or 3 situations about the leader behavior. So the leader asked for making the assessment, working with the team. But what I found out is that the leader himself is that one who harmed the team. And what is curious is that the team developed and they achieved that kind of autonomy level. And the leader, I suspect it is, he's afraid of losing the control. But, you know, how is to say, I am in the middle of the work. So how to deal with the leader who's harming himself or herself, the team.
Thank you. Excellent. I'm sure you have more questions. We'll have plenty of opportunity to do Q&A as we go through all of our sessions, and we are happy to work with you one-on-one as well once we complete these sessions. So with that, I am going to try to move folks over. Whoops. So that I can, sorry, 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca.
There we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Teasdale. I'm the third partner, founding partner of Trispective, and I'm excited to just so far listen to the energy and interest in these topics. What I will do in the next several minutes here is share with you 6 of our typical slides that we go through when we tee up the model. There are many layers you can do around this model. We invite you to take these, add to, modify, make it your own. But for the purposes of today, especially because people have varying levels of knowledge around our model, I want to start out pretty basic and get to your questions as we go, because I think your questions is a more engaging way than listening to me talk. What I will say, I want to repeat a couple of things kind of, or tie into some things Audrey had just said. The value we find in a simplified model, as you know, is it creates a common language. And Joe, I love what you said about kind of sitting in on a GCC meeting and hearing people use a language. It stuck, and it kind of gave people were able to incorporate that and use that common language. It's also a way to accurately diagnose a team, so it takes a bunch of the guesswork out of where we need to start as a team, and it gives us a clear starting point on what to do. As I think Audrey had said, or maybe Joe, it's a discussion starter. It's a place to make a safe environment to talk about what do we need to do to fix the team. So I'm gonna walk us through kind of this high level view of each of these 4 zones and try to build your knowledge around those, and then start to share some of the tools we use. One thing we do in every session, we like to start by letting people relate their own team experience to the model, and that is a very quick way to pull people in. I want to do this quickly to keep it moving here, but let me have you just think about what is the worst team you personally have ever been a part of. This could be, a team you've been on in the corporate world. It could be a team, a sports team you played on once, but think back to a really bad team experience and think about what made it toxic. What were the dynamics and how did it impact you? And I would just want to hear from a couple of people. What was that really bad team experience like for you? Linda, I'll let you call on people as you see the hands raised. I don't have that panel up right now.
Okay.
But can anyone just share kind of their worst war stories about bad team experiences?
So Melissa has raised her hand. Melissa, you want to go ahead?
All right. So we had a team at our plant quite a while ago. We had one team member who had been there a long time, was very dominant. If he didn't agree with you, it wasn't going to happen, so don't even try. So most of the team just went along with whatever he wanted, good or bad, because they were tired of basically being beat down. So in that scenario, the impact on the team was, there wasn't trust, there wasn't any direction because he was leading everything. People were really checking out. It was, for me personally, it was exhausting to come to work and to deal with that every day. I got tired. I, mentally checked out and, considered leaving the company because nobody was doing anything about it or could do anything about it. Fortunately for us, that person has left the company and much better team environment now. So is that what you're looking for?
It is, and I love that. And I think anyone who's ever had a situation close to that can relate to how destructive those situations are. That's why we have a belief that it only takes one toxic team member to make a toxic team. It just has we take a pretty hard line on how much you can tolerate that. We like to give people a chance to change, but at some point, it's better for everyone involved to get rid of the truly toxic players. What we do believe about highly toxic teams is that they're such bad experiences, we don't forget them. I don't know how many people I've coached, high potential people who say, I left a company because my team was bad, or I will leave the company if this team doesn't improve. So it has lasting impacts. To contrast that, I'd like to ask you to think about what's the best team experience you've ever had? What is a great experience that you'll never forget, that was special, that felt kind of rare and unusual, maybe the unicorn of your team experiences. And maybe if we could just get one person to offer an example, that would be great to hear what your learnings were.
All right, Diana, you want to go ahead?
Hi, yes. I think I do belong to a great team right now. I have been part of any others great teams, and what makes them special is having the genuine genuine people worrying about you and about your success, people available or willing to support your projects or your activities, people willing to advise, to provide feedback, people that I used to think that professional teams used to be only professional, but it's impossible to leave the personal part away. No matter how you try to balance that, you bring a little bit of you or your family to work, and then the other side as well. So I think it's also having a team which worries about you and also what's everything around you, and that's also part of family, I think.
I love how you said that. And, you know, we talk a lot about how everyone on the team has a big impact on each other and how we perform. For us, the game changer to get to a green zone team is having a team who the members around the table have everyone has each other's best interest in mind. And not only do you have their best interest in mind, you act on it. And we'll get to what does it look like to act on that. It is certainly quite a bit around the feedback piece that we've heard people mention, but that notion that we're as invested in the success of the people on our team as we are in our own success is one of the big differentiators of a green zone team. So again, we use this intro when we're presenting to teams because it's very kind of visceral to think back on what you've seen, what you've experienced, and it helps make the different aspects of this team model real as we go through it. So with that, I do want to move on to describing the four aspects or the four team types. Just going into this, what we know about teams, and this is part of our kind of belief system, is there are very observable dynamics. And for those of you who've been in this field for a while, you know, you can quickly walk in, talk to a few people on a team, and very quickly kind of hone what the likely issues are going to be. Great teams have both mindset, starting with a mindset about what it means to be a team player. We act and we behave based on those mindsets. This one is essential, as our research has shown. Every relationship matters. It only takes one really bad toxic relationship to ruin a team. We know that great teams have a very high bar about the team behaviors, and they will stop, take action, talk about the challenges, and work to fix it. So they are really good at self-managing and owning the team dynamic as a real entity. So those are things that you would have read in our book, but those are core beliefs that we like to share with our clients as we go through this process. Next, I do want to just kind of reflect on the opposite of that, which are the common behaviors that destroy team value. You will have seen these if you've been on or worked with really bad teams. People go into silence on the important issues. If you can't talk about the tough issues, you can't solve them. And that's a problem that keeps you don't have the psychological safety to raise those toughest issues. It leads to going around people, and that's instead of addressing issues head on with each other. You get unhealthy competition. I saw a lot of this when I was in the big consulting world. I worked at Accenture early in my career, and there was a lot of, for me to get ahead in that up or out environment, I had to compete often at the expense of other people. You start to see cynicism, of course, gossip are signs of bad teams. People get very attached to their own views and shut down dialogue in order to be right and maintain their rightness. You see blame and finger pointing, and I love, everyone can relate to this thing where you have the meeting and then the meeting after the meeting where you talk about the real issues, and those are all signs of trouble on teams. And false harmony, while it feels good and people often think, oh, we do great, but when the harmony is too great and people aren't having the tough conversations, there's trouble. So I will quickly now walk through the four types of teams, and then I want to get to your questions here, but I'd like to start with the red zone team. We only see this in 10 to 15% of the cases, and in our research base and the work we've done with literally thousands of teams. And these are teams where there is active undermining. There is such a win-lose mindset and so much unhealthy competitiveness that people will either allow other people to fail, or they will kind of behind the scenes try to create failure for other people. We have seen this in, I think maybe the worst situation was a CEO team of a Fortune 100 global finance organization or financial services organization, where an executive team was so distrustful of the CEO that they literally got a faction of people together who set that CEO up with the board that caused him to fail and have to leave the company. And you can see where the dollars in a financial services organization, when a CEO leaves, that has a pretty lasting impact on share price. It's not unrecoverable, but there was a lot of short-term damage. The way that happens is, you start to latch onto those negative stories or files about people that Audrey was mentioning earlier. You assume negative intent. You tend to want to see the worst in people. The blame and finger pointing comes out. In the book, this is what we call saboteur team behavior. And again, it's a very active set of behaviors where we're so threatened by other people that we would rather see them fail than succeed. And so we get invested in their failure. Those are highly, highly destructive teams, as you know. And I want to, let me just ask, don't raise your Zoom hand, but just show a physical raise of your hand if you've ever been on or kind of seen the damage that one of those red zone teams can do. Yeah, they're pretty bad. We don't forget them. And we work with a number of clients who are kind of stuck here. And the first thing you have to do is reestablish trust and get the issues on the table. But we'll come back to actions to solve these problems. But I just wanted to start with the kind of the worst case scenario. And then I want to contrast that with what we call the green zone teams. These are our best teams out there, which are, again, a smaller portion, 10 to 15% of those teams. And as Diana mentioned, these are those teams where we have each other's backs. We are actively invested in making each other successful. There are no undiscussables. It's the loyalist team we refer to in our book. And one of the most important differentiators there is that willingness to step in, have healthy conflict, say what needs to be said, and share the feedback. These green zone teams are not a panacea for conflict. They are not teams with false harmony where we all get along, but they're teams where there's such a commitment to each other's success that we're willing to have those tough conversations. And while you can't choose your family members, really, I like to use that example of with my family, I'm so committed to the success of my husband and my kids that I'm willing to have tough conversations, even though I know it will be hard. I will sit, I'll sit a family member down and I might know that there will be doors slamming or tears, but I want my family to succeed so much that I'm willing to have those tough conversations. So I like to use that as kind of an analogy for these great teams. they're hard to get to. We'll talk about, I think it was Joe maybe a minute ago who said these teams do the feed forward, and they are invested in kind of helping each other understand what they need to do to be more successful. And that's a hard thing to get people to do, just because we're humans and we like to avoid difficult situations with peers. The other two teams are more the majority of the teams we see, and these fall into two broad categories. The orange zone teams these are teams that are stuck in silos with it's a very much a play it safe environment. There's limited collaboration. And I would say the underlying mindset of an orange zone team is, it's not my job to help you. It's not my job to get in your space. If you make a mistake, you're going to be over there. I'm going to kind of watch that from afar. If you fail, if there's a problem, I can't invest in your mess, and I'm just going to stay heads down, avoid conflict, and do my job. Let me just ask one person if you have a thought on this. What is the danger or the problem with an orange zone team as I've described it? What's the downside to that team environment? Any thoughts? So as we see it, you're one
Oops.
kind of.
So Rebecca, Anthony raised his hand.
Okay, I can't see the panel. So
no, and I'm sorry, I was on mute as I was like screaming at you. Sorry.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Rebecca. I think for me, it's really typical to have teams in that kind of orange zone because, as you described it, it's very safe. And therefore, the real risk is that the real issues that people either sense completely consciously or semi-consciously just don't get raised because it's easier and safer not to. So it's kind of a comfort zone for people. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yes, George.
I've observed the silo merely between departments, not exactly within a department. Or within a team. So everybody said we are specialized. Even, for example, it is an outsourced accounting company. And they said, oh, we do not work together as we are specialized for different industries. And what I've observed is that they repeated the problems, they repeated the errors because they didn't share the experience. Mm-hmm. And therefore, there were a lot of efforts used to find solutions where they could go close to their colleague and ask, have you had this situation before? And third, but very important, is that they lost a lot of money. They lost a lot of money from the table because they didn't support each other from their experience, from their specialization. They said, we work only this. We don't know how to do something else. And actually, there were different persons in other sub-departments who were able to do and to run those services. So losing time, losing solutions, and losing money.
I think that's extremely well said. And, I think these teams worked in the 80s and 70s when work was so much less complex. And now the level of cross-functional coordination, alignment, agreement we see that as a strategic business advantage because there's speed, when you can get informed by other opinions, lessons learned, et cetera. And it's astounding to me how many teams know that, but still stay stuck in this silo mentality because for many reasons, often it's a lack of trust around, does it feel like, what if I look bad because you had an idea better than me? Right now, we are working with a CEO team in a pretty large regional utility in the U.S. And utilities are maybe behind culturally anyway, but their biggest challenge as an executive team of this, Fortune 100, 200 organization is they have not learned how to break through those silos. And the downside impact is slow decision making that impacts people at every subsequent layer in the company. So the employees feel this all the way throughout when leaders can't get together and make decisions that's in the best interest of the company versus what's in the best interest of their function. So the one thing I would add is I think when something goes really badly wrong, you're at a high risk of slipping over to red zone behavior. And that is something we don't want to see. We can talk more about that later, but let me go to this last team type here, which I think is the most interesting for a number of reasons. And this is the yellow zone team. These are, again, 30 to 35% of the teams we see. And these are teams that generally feel like a good, happy team. There are pockets of strong trust. There's collaboration and cooperation. People are generally willing to help each other. They will give each other positive feedback and encourage each other. In the book, these are what we call our situational loyalist teams. But I'm very interested on a couple of people to share a thought on what is the downside to being on, what gets lost when you're in a yellow zone team? Like what's the big risk there? Marcy?
Marcy?
I thought she raised her hand. Sorry. Anyone else have a thought on that?
She did.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. The problem with the yellow zone team is people aren't always authentic. They go to the meetings, they meet others halfway, but they're not all in. You know, they don't totally embrace the team dynamic, and everyone's not communicating on the same page, and they're not cohesive. So they'll have little pockets of people that are on the same page, but others just don't say anything and do just the part of the work and aren't all in.
So that's exactly it. And where I think it gets really tricky is when something goes wrong, there's no learned memory or skill around how to have the tough conversations. And so you end up with people that like each other. In fact, they may like each other so much that it makes it harder to have tough conversations. And that difference between that radical candor of getting to the green zone and kind of staying in false harmony and silence when you need to have the conversation holds teams back. On a good day, these teams are fine, but on any given day, guess what? There's going to be a problem in the business. There's going to be someone who makes a mistake. There will be, a big external event that impacts the business. And if you don't have that ability to get kind of down and dirty and have gritty conversations, you stay stuck, you're at risk of falling back into the orange zone or worse, and you don't get the benefit of two things that I think really separate these teams. One is to go from yellow to green, you have to have peer-to-peer accountability. On green zone teams, peers will pull each other out. Instead of going to the boss, they'll say, hey, what gives? We're not aligned. We have to figure this out. We cannot be misaligned. And on a yellow zone team, you don't have that kind of peer-to-peer accountability. It tends to be people who go to the boss and ask the boss to fix the problem, and the boss becomes an enabler. And so the boss is leading through kind of a hub and spoke model instead of having people own and take accountability for the tough conversations. I will end this piece with a quick story of a CEO we've worked with in the hospitality industry, which is a hard industry, but it's a multinational or international organization. And the CEO there has maybe 5, 7, 8 years ago started a practice where every staff meeting he will dedicate an hour to peer feedback. And he believes so strongly in radical candor and learning how to give tough feedback as a game changer that the team will, if they don't have anything to say, they'll sit in silence, but he forces the conversation to where people who like each other a lot have to learn how to give each other really good feedback. And it's helped them. He's had to make a lot of tough decisions to let people off the team who wouldn't do that. But over time, it's helped them have a series of unprecedented success in a massive number of acquisitions, but also weather some pretty tough storms in a tough industry.
So Rebecca, I'm going to make a game call here.
Yeah.
This is part of our learning on the fly. What we're going to do now is jump to the diagnosing team section, so let the group go into breakout and talk about the homework that we had given them.
Okay.
So if I might ask you to stop sharing your screen, and I will step into sharing mine.
Okay. There you go, Linda. Back over to you.
Hang on just a second. So I appreciate you all sitting with us as we go through this, and as we are learning kind of real time how to manage through this opportunity that we have with you to spend some time talking about where we are at in this process. Generally, and we'll regroup around this, when I say we, Audrey, Rebecca and I, to talk about what it is we need to pick up in the next session to make sure that we are able to share that information with you that I just somewhat rudely cut Rebecca off from sharing. So jumping to the actual 4-team zone assessment itself, and talking about what we have when it comes to diagnosing teams. As you're aware, we have the 1D, 2D, and 3D. The sample report that we sent to you was the 3D assessment that takes a look at the feedback that's received from team members, the team leader, and from stakeholders. And in the material that I sent you yesterday evening, also sent you the assessment white paper, so you have some understanding of the reliability and validity studies that we've done with this assessment, and also have provided you with the assessment questions themselves. And generally at this point, we would walk you through how we would read this 3D assessment. But in order to be able to honor the time frame that we've set for this, we're actually going to set you all loose and put you into breakout rooms and asking you to take a look at that analysis that we had sent to you, and basically answering these questions in breakout based on the scores that you're seeing from stakeholders. What do you think the file is that stakeholders have on this leadership team? As you looked at the assessment, what do you see as the main reasons that this team may be good, as it's in the yellow zone, but not great? As you read through this, are there some team norms that you might suggest this team needs to take on in order to become a green zone team? And then thinking about if you were to actually be facilitating the debrief in a session with this team, how would you navigate the challenges that are emerging through the assessment that are related to the organization structure? And what I will tell you is not only this assessment that we sent you, but the ones that you receive as pre-work for the next session are live teams that the three of us have been engaged in coaching and working with over the past couple of years. So this is a real team scenario. And then the last question there, talking about the organization structure. What change do you see that Alec himself can affect to improve the overall performance and reputation of the team? So those are the analysis questions that we provided you with in the pre-work. In a moment, when I stop screen sharing, we're going to put you into breakout rooms. They will go live immediately. I'm going to ask that you pick a spokesman from your group to do the report out when we get back together again, and ask that that spokesperson take notes, because I believe, given the time frame, we'll probably be starting the next session with your debrief on this yellow zone team. We're going to give you 20 minutes to complete the analysis. And if you need help, there will be a button at the bottom of your breakout room panel that you can click, and one of us will step into the room with you. We'll give you a 5-minute warning. You'll get a broadcast message that says time is almost up. And then at that 5-minute point, the rooms will close automatically and you'll be asked to rejoin the main session. So that's how we're going to move forward from this point. Are there any questions before we blow you into breakout? All right, I am going to open all the rooms and ask that you join those rooms. Does everyone see a room that they've been assigned to?
No.
Okay, all right. So this is one of our learnings from yesterday. Let me just go through and do this then. I apologize. We had tried to figure this out and I'm not seeing it come through. So just give me 2 seconds and I will assign to various rooms. Your name should be popping up now in terms of rooms that you're being assigned to.
Yep, they're all there. Everybody's back.
I've got the participant panel up.
Okay, everyone's back. You're seeing that, Audrey, that everyone's back?
I am seeing it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, welcome back. I do hope that that was a good conversation that you had in the team, in the breakout rooms. The question I would ask is to make sure that you're, the person that you selected to be the spokesperson, that individual knows we're going to be starting the next session with a readout and debrief on Alex's team. The majority of our time in the next session following that will be to do a debrief on the other 3 team types. We'll assign to the 3 breakout rooms one particular team, whether it be a red zone team, a green zone team, or an orange zone team, but would ask in preparation that you review all 3 of those assessments. So even if you're not in a breakout that's involved in doing a specific analysis, you are able to take part in the broader discussion when we come into the report outs on those team sessions. So I will finish there and ask if there are questions that you might have coming out of the breakout, or questions that you have with regards to the presentation that you've seen so far, and hopefully we have some answers. So if you have some questions, please go ahead, raise your hand.
Jennifer.
So, yeah, I have a question. Would it be okay for, like, when our breakouts are groups, to have email if we have questions amongst each other that we'd like to follow up a bit? Or do you want us to just come in cold next week with?
On the other 3 assessments?
On the one we just did.
Okay, yeah, so in the pack that you will get from me later today, I will include all the contact information for all of the participants. So you have that, and you can, with discretion, do with it as you will.
Okay, thanks.
So a suggestion, if I might, one of the things that we had to do is we had to go back to your original email to find the questions, because we didn't take a picture or do a screen capture of the, answering all the questions. So that took a little bit of time. So maybe we could do that in the future.
Yeah, that's a good learning. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And if, are there other questions? Or if not, Joe, I really appreciate the feedback. We're curious, as Audrey said, as going into this, this is our first foray into doing a team session this large on a virtual platform. We would absolutely welcome any feedback and happy to take it now, or we will be sending, I will send out just a few questions to get specific feedback around. But if there's anything that we need to learn in true Loyalist fashion, we're asking for it, and we would love for you to offer it in Loyalist fashion.
So I'll make one other suggestion. We just did a 3 of 5 sessions for a 14-person team that we're doing another session this afternoon, and we started it this week. And one of the things we learned was there's breakout rooms. You can have a whiteboard, and so you can capture everything on the whiteboard for the team. And so that's, but then what has to happen is, like, you, Linda, or a moderator, the Zoom guru, whoever that is, needs to come in and do a screen capture of the whiteboard, and then you could bring that back to the rest of the team. So it would have gives the team the ability, when you're having the discussion, to see what's being captured, versus me just, or whoever it was, taking
Doing
notes.
hard copy notes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just one other thought.
Brilliant.
Fabulous.
That was worth the price of entry right there, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, you guys are a step ahead of us on these hard learnings.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We got that feedback and feed forward, and everybody was like, "Oh, do that." And it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's a great idea."
Well, thank you for that, Jim. Any other questions? Any other feedback areas that would be helpful for us to hear? Okay, then. So I'm going to basically go around, ask Audrey to go around the horn in just a minute. So for the next session, you're going to receive the materials for the next session. I'll get those to you by the end of the day. As I mentioned, the pre-work is for you to review the assessments in advance of the session. And we're certainly going to invite specific feedback. But if in the absence of us inviting that specific feedback, you have other feedback or concerns that would be helpful for us to hear, please don't hesitate to share this with us. It's really important to us that we hear you. For us, this is the beginning of a pretty significant partnership. You will be joining a group of 48 other people who've already gone through this assessment and being part of that community. So we look forward to inviting you in there. As we wrap up, Audrey, I'm just going to ask you to go around the horn and see if there, as people are leaving this session today, what might be a thought that they have or an aha moment about the content or about how they thought about this work coming into it that they're leaving with today.
Great. Let's start with Marcy.
Oh my.
Oh, sorry.
That was quick.
I don't know. I don't have a comment right now. It's a different session because we're all from different places. So our viewpoints are a little bit different rather than all being from the same company. So that's a viewpoint that I have is the different dynamic between the people that we're working with in this session.
Great, thanks. How about Anthony?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting and great initial immersion in the tool and the assessment. And I know that just in terms of my own approach to these things, I need to take several iterations, not being a really detail-oriented person. So just starting to come to grips with the different scales and how they relate to each other has been very useful in this first iteration, and looking forward to the next several as well.
Great, thanks. George.
So I'll share the experience of reading a book and then afterwards coming to the workshop. It's like a pattern. So the book is different than the movie. But in which sense? So first of all, I appreciate the values you have shared and showed to all of us. We are coming from different parts of the globe, but I felt as being part of a community. Maybe it's too early to say it is a solid community, but I felt the values, and I want to appreciate from everything you have shared with us, and you showed, at least for me, it was a fantastic 2 hours spent with you. The second, I love to be here because of the people I have interacted with, and thank you very much, ladies. It was a very good conversation, and thank you for supporting. I'm taking, let's say, the hope that I will understand quickly, and I will learn quickly what is this full team assessment about. You are already experienced, and you may know that without practicing, a tool is not very easy to be learned. So I am, how to say, I appreciate very much the effort to allow me to learn quickly with these. And I'm saying for the main partners, but also for all the other teams. Thank you very much.
Great, Hortensia.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. Well, first of all, thank you for the experience. To be honest with you, I was a little hesitant, like how everything was going to work, right? In our organizations, things are moving so quickly, so constant emails, constant calls. So I was a little bit hesitant, like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm going to concentrate and participate in the meeting. But it's been very easy to keep engaged. So I appreciate that. Sometimes that's hard to do, at least for me, right, with everything going on, but this has been really good. So I value that a lot. Also, you know, having the experience to have conversation, learn with what others are going through, and with different parts of, you know, of the world, having that experience, that has been wonderful. And not only, you know, us all communicating, but also you guys giving us the opportunity to get together in small groups so that we can exchange what we're thinking, different ideas, and also the challenge on our end, right? Not do this virtually versus do this in a room, and do this with team members that we all might be familiar with. So it's been a good and great experience. So thank you for that.
Fantastic. And I know we are just past time. So if you have to drop off before you can.
Audrey, we just lost you. So I think what Audrey was saying, if you have to drop off before we get to call you, please feel free to do that.
Sorry, so, I lost connection for a second there.
That's correct. I just said what I thought you were going to say. I was mind reading. I was
mind
reading.
And you did a wonderful job.
I'll hand it back to you then.
Let's see, Joe.
Sure. I appreciate the international quality that we have here, and you know, I appreciate Anthony. I mean, my goodness, he's the dedication to work in the time frame that you are. Well done. And you too, George. So that's big. And then the other thing is, it takes a lot of behind the scenes work to do what you all have done. And you know, well done. So good job.
Thanks so much. All my names switched. So let's see. Melissa?
Well, I have a lot of the same comments that everybody else has already had, but one of the big takeaways for me was, you know, I was a little bit intimidated coming into this. You know, we have a lot of consultants with a lot of years, and, you know, they bring a lot to the table, and I was a little worried that I you know, wouldn't have much to say to engage in the conversation. That didn't happen. I mean, they were very receptive and engaging in that. And so I appreciate that. And I think after this session, everybody has something to say. It's important that everybody speaks in the conversation. So that was my kind of big aha takeaway. Yeah, this is for me. I can, you know, participate in it and have something that's important to say as well. So thank you for that. And, you know, it's not always easy, especially in these web meetings, to be able to speak up. So I found that refreshing and encouraging for the next sessions.
Fabulous. Thank you, Lisa.
Yes, I thought, you know, reading the book and going through the first workshop session, it really, somebody said that our ultimate goal as facilitators is to create habit within the organization, and that really stuck with me. And I really appreciate getting everyone's viewpoints. I think that this is an awesome way to do this training, because now I can think about this particular session on its own as opposed to one whole day. And also being in our own spaces, I think maybe we're more comfortable and willing to speak out. So I think this has been great. Thank you.
Fabulous. Jennifer?
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Well, I would like to start by thanking you, Audrey and Linda and Rebecca, for, you know, giving us all this opportunity to just learn this work, which feels really impactful and important, especially in today's world, which is getting so fast and business is getting so fast. And, you know, all of you, I feel like I kind of already know you, which is pretty crazy. It's only been 2 hours and I can just kind of feel like this is a great group. So I just want to, you know, come forward with that gratitude and just reflect that I'm sensitive to like just feelings and my body, and I feel really excited, and I can feel like this expansiveness that I was curious, how was I going to feel afterwards? Because I'm kind of new to the whole team thing. And, you know, like I think Melissa said too, it'd be like, oh, I have something to add. Is this going to be all intimidating? And my body is saying, this is exciting and this is fun. And, you know, just the fact that at the end of this breakout, I really felt like, I would love to work with Alex's team, with Vanessa and Patricia. I was like, we could do this. I felt like with these tools, we can help this. And so that for me is just kind of says it all. It's like, yes, this is cool. Thank you. Let's all do this.
Great. Thank you so much. Diana, anything from you?
Yes. Well, first of all, you must know the aha moment is a word that I have learned on 2020. So, and I'll get there. So one thing is getting to know about the model, which is something I already had. I'm becoming familiar with the model every time a little bit more. The second thing is seeing groups, trying to follow the model and get to the green zone. And the third thing is seeing you, Trispective team, leaving actually the model. So that's such a great thing. So every experience with you, sharing with you, it's very satisfying because you actually give the example. So that's my aha moment from today's session.
Thank you so much. Did I miss anyone who's still on?
So did you get Mark?
I don't think he's still on.
Okay. Okay. All
There's
right.
me.
Oh, we
Vanessa.
have Lauren.
Oh, Vanessa.
Lauren.
And Lauren, thank you so much.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I just thought this was a really powerful, 2 hours. There was just so much great content and dialogue, and I think there's just so much power in discussions. What really resonated for me, and just kind of reflecting on it, was our breakout session. Taking 3 people that don't know each other, but we just jived so quickly, and we kind of built off of each other's ideas. It was truly a great kind of learning experience. And I kind of take that a step further and say, gosh, wouldn't this be amazing if we had something very similar within the organization? Call it, these like little mini sessions where you get leaders together and they just kind of have that safe space to discuss different things that they're experiencing or challenges they're facing, and getting the various like perspectives and opinions from others to kind of support them and help guide them in kind of their leadership journey. So
that's great. Thank you.
Love
Lauren.
that. Thanks.
I can ditto for me on many of the comments that have been made. I really enjoyed this session. I've had different experiences with Zoom and online learning, and this has really been a pleasure. And I loved the breakout group. It's the first time that I actually really felt that the four of us were in a conversation. So thank you, George and Melissa and Lisa. Yeah, so I'm just looking forward to really unpacking the tool and being able to work with the detail, because it's really, it's robust and very detailed, which is fantastic. And yeah, I'm excited. I've had fun, and yeah, and I feel the energy of the group is wonderful. So thank you.
Well, that's great, and really appreciate the thoughts and the feedback that you've put out there for us. It just leaves it for me to thank you on behalf of Trispective for sharing so much of this precious time that you have with us. And just gratitude that our world continues to expand and grow. And I know a number of you said just how impressed you were with the folks in your breakout room. We just can't believe the quality of people that we get to share our passion with. So thank you for being part of our journey. Anthony, don't mean to call you out particularly, but I will do. It's like almost 1:10 in the morning for you. You're a rock star, buddy. Thank you for thank you for being there, and for the rest of us. And again, Lauren and George, really appreciate you taking the time to share your part of the globe with us. All of you, be safe, stay well, and we will see you same time, same place next week.
Have a great week, guys. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.